I've got a restaurant in Winter Park also, and the business community was like, "Hey, we got to get some young business people on the council." And then before I knew it, I was appointed as the mayor. So
How old are you?
I'm on my what am I on now? My going into my sixth year as the mayor, and I was just recently reappointed for another 2 years, and then I'll have to run to get on the council again. But yeah, this gondola project is definitely a priority for me personally. So I'm more than happy to share what I can. I think you understand a lot of um, the negotiations between the town and the resort are in executive session right now, but there's a lot of good stuff happening.
Sure, I would naturally expect that actually.
Yeah.
I had just been looking at the map yesterday, and I know Winter Park pretty well. We used to ski the Jane in the '80s when we were back in college at CU often, and I've been up there I think 3 times last year just to go look around. Since joining the powder. But where exactly right now would the gondola take off from? Where in town?
Yeah, so it's a really cool project. I don't know if you know the history with Winter Park, but the relationship between Denver and the resort and WPRA, which is the Winter Park Rec Association, has a board that's appointed by the mayor of Denver. And there is certain development parameters that they have to abide by as they're submitting this new master plan. WPRA years ago had purchased a parcel in town, which is directly across the street from our town hall, which is on Vasquez Road as you go up into one of our main residential subdivisions. And the landing in town is adjacent to town hall, which is right next to Cooper Creek Square, walking distance to our main downtown corridor. So that's the town portion. And then I think if you saw the map, you'll notice that there's 3 legs of the gondola.
Mm-hmm.
So the town's leg will land at Cooper Creek Ridge, and then it goes down into the Discovery Park area. And then the final leg will be about 1,000 yards plus or minus from the train platform at the base of the resort.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know where the tunnel comes out. Gazed at that and wondered.
Yes. So, and I know there's a lot of questions here. So I think that what is really cool about this project is that it's a public-private partnership, and the collaboration between the town of Winter Park Resort in Altera, and a private developer and landowner in the community makes up the P3. So we are trying to operate the gondola as a public transportation piece. And the state is, as you know, is moving forward. Tomorrow there's a bill signing for the mountain passenger rail and the rail transportation fee, which is linked to rental cars to help offset some subsidies for expansion of passenger rail.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So we're talking about a regional transportation, multimodal transportation piece here that we've been working on for about Winter Park, myself, and the P3 has been engaged for about 5 years on this. And I think if you dig, the last master plan by the resort did include the gondola to town, but now all the stars are aligned, and we have a coalition, if you will, working on this transportation.
Yeah, you've got a lot of layers there of different people who need to be on board, and that's I've followed regional transportation planning in Colorado for 30 years, and sometimes it doesn't align. And now we had an opportunity to put a rail in the Roaring Fork Valley up to Aspen, and then we just paved it over and made it a bike path, which I think is kind of a downer. But how long would this gondola run? What kind of distance are we talking about?
The engineering on it, I don't have the specifics on it, but the time on the gondola would roughly be about 16 to 18 minutes. However, the leg from town to the resort, that first leg would be roughly about 12 minutes, and then you can get off and ski. And then if you want to take it all the way to Discovery Park, for example, that would be another, 3-4 minutes, and then the next leg would be an additional 3-4 minutes. So the length out, we would have to get our engineers, and probably that's a question for the resort on that. But it's a longish ride. But I think the point that we want to make is the amount of time that you're actually utilizing the transportation versus a bus, for example, or driving a car and finding a parking spot at the resort. You'll be able to get on the mountain and ski very quickly. And I would like to point out too, with as it being a public transportation piece, we've thought a lot about this and how it would be utilized by not only guests of the community, but as for full-time residents. We've incorporated workforce housing at both ends, parking at both ends, and I think that the transfer between the rail platform and the downtown area is a key piece here as well. And what it does for our community, really, it allows us to create micro transit with our current Lyft transportation system in the downtown area to make it much more convenient. And then we can reallocate our resources for the Lyft transportation system, hopefully into Rocky Mountain National Park, into Grand Lake, into other parts of the county, which I think is key as we continue to expand our transportation system.
So you said about 12 minutes. That's about 2 miles on a typical gondola right now. What size of sort of parking lots are you looking at on either end? Because this is going to become something to do just to do it. I mean, that's what happens with these
Sure.
things. It's very much a draw for people.
Yeah, the resort has, and to get the specifics on the parking and what their requirements are, that's a question for the resort. But part of their master plan includes new parking structures on the resort's property. And then in town, we already have a parking structure that's currently built that's across the street from the gondola, and we built a transit center where all of our Lyft bus transportation drops off, and it's directly across the street. So we've already thought through some of the logistics in terms of how people can easily and utilize the transportation system.
What's the capacity of the garage downtown?
I want to say it has over 300 spaces, 350 spaces.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yep.
It's sort of veil sized. What would be the capacity of the gondola at this point? Do you know? People per hour?
Oh man, that's a great question too. It's a 10-person cabin on the gondola, so it's similar to the one that the resort installed a few years back. And oh man, I wish I could get the exact numbers for you, but we do have the capacity on that. Let me see. Let me send a quick text and see if I can get that.
Okay. Another question. What has been the response to people in the community that actually know that this is happening? Because it sounds like it's going to be very much a go.
Yeah, let me get to that in just a second. So what's interesting about this project is, as I mentioned before, it was part of the master plan from the resort 20 plus years ago. So people have been expecting this project. So what's been beneficial to me, certainly as the mayor, is as we are creating this public-private partnership, the town had to secure the easements to make it a reality. And so we are successful in doing that, and are very, very close to finalizing the easements. And there's been very little pushback from the community. And I would say that one of the most beneficial things about being the mayor in Winter Park is our relationship with the ski resort, Sky, the president over there, and Altera. I mean, their philosophy is so different from what I've ever seen before, especially with Interwest in the past. It's not, yes, they need to make money as a business, but it's about the guest experience. It's about accommodating beginners, and expert skiers. And so they are very, very focused on infrastructure and how people move throughout the resort. And then the real estate will come later. Very similar to how a town, if we do a public project, let's say a park in town, how development happens around that public infrastructure. And so for years, we've been able to talk through a lot of this, look at where the weak points are and how the operations go. And then the town is in a position to support Altera and the resort with those public improvements and then those infrastructure projects. So, it could be very different when you have zero collaboration or communication between, the largest employer and the community and the town.
Yeah. What's the reaction from the rest of or the position of the rest of the town council? Are they as supportive as you are?
Yeah, I think we have a very cohesive council right now in terms of infrastructure projects. I think that most of the council, we had a recent election back in earlier this spring, and the council has remained the same, and most of the council, so that would be a 2 to 4 year period for those council members. And so they've been working on this project with us, or with me and Mayor Pro Tem over the last several years. So by not having any transition there in the last election shows me that, hey, everyone's full steam ahead and the community is supporting this project because, it's an expensive project, but it is something that's pivotal and a game changer for our community.
Full steam ahead is Steamboat Springs growth plan. I don't know if you know that
Yeah.
that title. You probably do. So you're gonna make basically Winter Park's going to become very European. I mean, more so even than Vail in some ways. This is kind of exciting, actually. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, a people mover that is literally in the town. And another question: are you planning on expanding to Fraser? I just.
Yeah. I think that, as far as the multimodal transportation goes, I mean, we were really looking at this as a broad regional transportation piece because Winter Park years ago, along with CDOT, the resort, and the town invested in the train platform to accommodate the Winter Park Express as there was a transition from Anschutz and his train and partnering with Amtrak. So we know the importance of that and maintaining that infrastructure. And so what's so interesting is how that project from the state is working in parallel with our gondola project. So as a public transportation piece, we're going after we'll be going after FTA funding. We have to do the same studies that the state has to do. There's a lot of collaboration and cohesive between the state's regional rail line, and I don't know. I'll touch on that in just a second because it's very interesting. And ours, so regional transportation studies, and it has to go through the same environmental studies to make it a reality. So we're working very closely and supporting the state on the mountain rail piece, and they are supporting us as well on the resort to town gondola because. I mean, it's hard not to view a gondola, as you alluded to before, as something that's attractive for people who may not ski and can utilize it year round as just recreational and I don't know what you want to call it, an entertainment mode of transportation.
Disneyland.
Beautiful views. Yeah. And what's also not on there, which is a separate piece, but something that we're working for, is a year-round trail that would go from the resort downtown as well. And I'm not sure if that was included in there in the press release from the Forest Service there.
A trail that would go to downtown.
Yeah,
it's a couple of miles.
Yep. So. So it's all part of the same project, but the funding for it would come from a different tranche. There's some engineering, some bridge infrastructure that needs to happen, but it's something that we're really excited about because it could be utilized as a hiking trail, biking trail in the summer, and then obviously skiing in the winter.
Oh my God, that's somewhat more significant than a gondola, to be honest. It's just so far from the resort to the town. I just yeah,
Yeah,
this is tones of Snowmass and Vale and a bunch of other resorts, which is really exciting, actually. Um,
yeah.
does the tramway board play a role in this much at all? They just have to look at the plans and sign off on it, right?
Yeah, most likely. And the way that the town that we have this kind of the bones of the P3, the town is through an annexation of Cooper Creek Village. We are securing the easement from that property owner who's part of the P3 um, from downtown to the resort's permit boundary. And then we are would be contracting with the town as the operator for the gondola, working through their resources for um, the improvement itself, likely through Lightner Poma. I think as a FTA grant requirement, it has to be American made. So we're working through all that. So the resort would handle the majority of like the NEPA process and going through the actual installation and approvals and
Okay.
working with the Forest Service.
Final discussion point. Is there any kind of timeline for this at the moment?
Yeah, so like I said before, the town's responsibility is to secure the easements, which we are hopefully are months away. Then it'll be we have a project manager that we're working with. So once the easements are secured, then we have to go. There's two studies that we have budgeted for and have asked for some federal help with to fund. One is a regional transportation study. The other one would be the NEPA study, which the agency that would review it most likely would be the FTA. Once those studies are complete, the town would be eligible to go after a federal tranche of money for the capital cost of it. So best case scenario, you're looking at about 4 to 5 years. And if we are not successful in some of those funding endeavors, then the project can be phased. You would likely see the two legs at the resort happen at first, and then the town would continue to go after funding and potentially bonding for the town's leg. So that's what I can tell you right now. But it is a process. There's a lot of when you're going after grant funding, there's a certain timeline that we have to abide by, but I'm hoping that it's sooner rather than later. I think the community is as well.
Personally, I can tell you're really excited about this. Just give me your thoughts at the moment on this whole thing. I think it's very, very exciting.
Yeah. Well, and hold on one sec. I just got it's a 12 passenger, or excuse me, 10 passenger gondola, 3,600 people per hour.
Wow,
Um,
that's a lot of people.
yeah. So it has the capabilities of moving quite a few people. I want to say, you know, through this portal in town, naturally you're going to see just what's always interesting about Winter Park is that the resort comes first and then the town comes later. So, as I mentioned before, all of our public transportation and our buses has a transportation station across the street from the gondola. So, the what we would see utilizing the gondola on this end for the skiing on a daily basis would be those in the town subdivisions, and then also Fraser, Granby, who are utilizing our public transportation and then parking in town, utilizing the gondola to go to the resort. And then at the resort end, you've got new parking infrastructure going in, and that most would tackle most of the people coming from the Front Range
Right,
or over the pass.
right.
And then, sorry, back to your question. My personal
Just
thoughts on it.
yeah, just final thoughts and comments. How you're feeling, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said before, this is a really exciting project to work on because it's very unique for the skiing industry. When you combine passenger rail infrastructure with a gondola, that is something that is so unique in North America. Like you said before, it's more of a model that you see in Europe, and we certainly are excited about being a catalyst for a project of that magnitude because it's not just local, it's regional, and theoretically international, because it now links Denver International Airport with Winter Park and ultimately into Rocky Mountain National Park, which I think is really exciting. And I think locally in the community, this is something that we've expected as community members for years and years and years. And so my excitement level is way up there because of the collaboration between the community, the town, and Winter Park Resort and Alterra. It's been nothing but a pleasure working with Alterra and Winter Park Resort, and the philosophy that they bring to the community with recreation and outdoor enthusiasm is something that the town certainly supports, and we're excited to continue working with them as we continue to work through the master planning process.
Yeah, Sky is a great guy. So,
Yeah.
I've taken photos of him. So, anyway, Nick, Mayor of Winter Park, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate it. And just gauging the temperature there in Winter Park, it's good to hear that there's excitement for moving forward with this.
Yep, a lot of exciting stuff happening here. So,
All right.
yeah, let me know if you need anything else. And is this going on the website or what's?
Yeah, to go on the website. You should probably see it this afternoon. So,
okay, right on.
thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right, you bet. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.